The town embark on our second longest trip of the season on Wednesday night when we travel to the Stadium of Light to take on Sunderland. Alongside me to preview the game, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, it's about time we got an away win under our belts, isn't it?
Many, many years.
It has been, yeah, it has. We'll reflect on the chances, the game, and everything around it right after this intro.
I believe our supporters are the best supporters in the country.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category at the Football Content Awards. This season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I said prior to the intro, we're looking ahead to Sunderland versus Luton Town, Wednesday evening, 7:45 kickoff. If you've not got a ticket in the away end, Sky Sports Plus will show the game in the UK. And I'm joined by Jimbo to look ahead to the game. Jimbo, bloody long way away. Second longest trip of the season behind Plymouth. So that's going to make for a fun Wednesday night. Obviously, the last time we were there was a playoff semi-final. Started off so well, turned a bit sour. Kind of reminiscent of the last few away games, actually. But let's hope this time, if we can get in front like we did then, that we can hold on.
Hold on for something, yeah.
Has to be said, statistics aren't painting a pretty picture for this one.
They're really not. Do you want me to give you some horrible ones?
Are there any slightly less horrible ones? I mean, Sunderland unbeaten at home this season. Should have lost at the weekend, should be said, to that lot down the road. Now, if that lot down the road can go within minutes of beating them, kind of gives me a little bit of confidence. Not a great deal, but a little bit. Town haven't won since away from home since the Titanic sank. So, in true championship style, this has got away win written all over it. No, I'm not convincing you, am I?
Is that what you're pinning your hopes on?
That's where we've got to, mate.
I'm nothing if not a realist, so I will give you some stats because I was looking at it. So, Luton are winless in 20 trips to Sunderland, stretching 52 years.
Does anyone want a ticket to the away end on Wednesday night?
I mean, that is not good, is it? That's pretty poor. 1973, the last time Town won in Sunderland. We weren't born.
No, we weren't. We weren't. We're old.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a long time ago, isn't it? We would have won the league game there the season we got promoted had Mr. Diallo not decided to do a Swan Lake impression. We would have won that game. He's not there. I'm not selling this to you at all, am I? Crikey. Could be a long podcast, this one.
So I tried to do some balance for you. Here's some balance for you. Now, we've just been on a break, not an international break, but a break. So I looked up breaks this season. And let's just say a break of more than 7 days. Sometimes you play Saturday to Saturday. So 3 times Luton have come back from a break this season already. 3 times we've won and conceded 0 goals. That was against Millwall away, so our only away victory. Beat that lot down the road and then beat Hull at home after the international breaks. And then there's one more international break and that will be away to Hull. So there's a chance there. So that's something to balance it out for you.
Yeah, you're right. We go well fresh in racing parlance. The break was important, wasn't it? Because we've just had this flurry of new signings that we discussed in the last podcast. They were all at Sheffield Wednesday, with the exception of Lasse Nordas, who arrived on the Monday. Although we're not expecting him to hit the ground running, just because of how long the Norwegian league had been dormant. but they've all had time to integrate into each other, in the system, into what Matt's trying to do and everything else. Really and truly, this probably is the first time to judge the Matt Bloomfield era, considering, yes, he had a week between Millwall and Sheffield Wednesday, but all the players were coming in during that week. This is the first kind of game where everything's been on an even keel. His first 3 games, he had 2 training sessions in between each one. Can't really do a great deal. I mean, it's a hard game to judge them on because Sunderland flying 4th in the table, could have gone 2nd had they beaten Watford at the weekend. Didn't beat Watford. But they looked a bloody good side. When they go forward, I mean, this number 18, Lefay, I mean, he's been giving me nightmares since I watched him against Middlesbrough last week. He is, to say he's one to watch is an absolute understatement. I mean, the only way we're going to deal with him, and indeed Sunderland maybe, is to take Cunliffe out of that Dutch lot's book last weekend, who played 12 on the pitch at the same time and got away with it. Now, if we can do that, we're in business.
I missed that one.
Yeah.
Who's done that?
I can't remember who the team was, but they were playing against Robin van Persie's team.
Yeah.
And they managed to play out injury time with 12 men on the pitch and scored an injury time equaliser as well.
And that stands, does it?
And yeah, well, I mean,
God love the Dutch.
Presumably they'll replay it at some point, but they'd obviously been smoking a little bit too much of whatever it is that they smoke out there, and the referee couldn't count. So if we can go down that route and stick 12 on the pitch, we might have half a chance here.
Well, considering some of the referees that are in this competition, then yeah, maybe. I think counting is one of the things they can do, and the rest of the things probably not. Yeah, I mean the odds are stacked in Sunderland's favour. I think you're right in that, you know, Bloomfield's had 10 days to work with them, hadn't had that luxury so far. So in that sense, I agree with you. It's probably a good yardstick for the Matt Bloomfield era, although there were incremental changes and improvements that we saw in the first couple of games. Then not the third one, because that was terrible, but then again in the fourth one. So hopefully you can build on those and improve all the way. Whether that can possibly result in a victory at a ground where they haven't lost this season and they're absolutely flying, I think remains to be seen. But there's obviously some stats there that you could go there with optimism with. There are some historical ones which obviously you can't. So I want to see the progression of what he's trying to do, but also now with those added players in, like Asgard only got thrown in. Well, he'd only been there a day or two, and he gets thrown in and that sort of thing. So, yeah, and the other three that were signed that week, they all came on as cameo performances. So hopefully, maybe they get a longer stint to see what they can do. So there are some variables here that are sort of the unknowns, and I think that's probably where we need to try and pitch our optimism.
Yeah. Fortuna Sittard were the Dutch side that decided to play with 12 men against Heerenveen, and got away with it.
Brilliant stuff.
Chance your arm. You never know.
Why not?
You never know. And if we can play, and if in amongst the 12 men we can play 2 right backs and keep this Lefay quiet, then so much the better.
Or just generally.
Well, yeah, or just generally. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we've all seen Sunderland's last 2 games. One of them was against Middlesbrough, was on ITV for those that don't have Sky. And obviously a game against Watford at the weekend. I'm sure many Luton fans were tuning into that, not just because Sunderland are our next opponents, but obviously Watford Derby Day is getting ever closer, just 2 weeks away now. They score goals, Sunderland. Of course they score goals. I mean, you look at their attack. But they do concede them. Conceded twice to Middlesbrough, conceded twice to Watford at the weekend. Okay, at the weekend, penalty and a worldie, and an absolute worldie it was too, to be fair. But that gives us some sort of encouragement that they do concede goals. Yeah, they're going to score goals, and they're probably going to score goals against us, but it'll be interesting to see what we can impose on them. So like you said, a lot of those incomings were attacking incomings. So we're expecting a lot more of an attacking output from us. To be fair to Bloomfield, with the exception of that 20-minute spell at Oxford where we just went all over the place, we've generally defended pretty well under him. So that's some kind of positive. Yes, Sunderland have got some really, really good options. I mean, I've mentioned Lefay. I mean, he had Ayling on toast in that game against Middlesbrough. Some of the flicks. Someone posted a video on Twitter of like his best bits from that game. Like the highlights reel from just 90 minutes. Usually, like a career highlights reel is about 3 minutes. They found 3 minutes of highlights from this game alone of all of his great touches, and I was like, please don't. Please don't.
Ayling had a stinker though, didn't he? From everything I've heard, and it's not been performing that highly. Am I?
Have you looked at our right backs recently?
Look, let's not look at our right backs. I'll just look at him and point the blame at him and just say he had a field day against Ayling. But
you're right, because he wasn't as influential on Saturday. They moved him inside with about half an hour to go, and he didn't look anywhere near as effective in the middle as what he does out wide. So play him in the middle on Wednesday night, chaps.
Or rest him.
Absolutely, rest him completely. Yeah, rest all of them actually. Concentrate on whoever it is that you've got on Saturday. I mean, listen, if we allow him to play football, we are going to get punished. If we allow him to play football the way we allowed Barry Bannon at our place, Matt Grimes at our place, and the likes, it ain't going to end pretty.
No, but that was the Edwards era, wasn't it? And not Bloomfield. The spaces in the middle have been more condensed under Bloomfield. Apart from, I mean, even the Oxford goals, they had to go down the flanks, didn't they? Which I guess lends weight to your Lefay argument. That's fair enough. But in the centre, then hopefully they're a bit more of a unit, and they would have had that 10-day gap to work on that. If you're looking at the first 3 games that he had and the incremental changes that he brought about, even though it wasn't the fabled new manager bounce that we were all hoping for, they were there. It was just that they were starting from such a low bar of where he'd picked this team up from. So I think that, if that's the sign of his coaching ability in small parts, then you would hope that 10 days would be a lot more chance to put the Bloomfield imprint on this team. And obviously he's got the players to do it a bit better now. He's got some quite promising and attacking, exciting players. I mean, we only saw one attack of Ali. Get him on there, frightening the life out of people with a bit of pace. Who knows? He could be a bit of a maverick.
He could, yep. We'll come on to Luton shortly. Let's just go through a couple of other sort of Sunderland threats that we need to keep quiet. The centre forward's going to be Isidore. Reminds me of like Sesame Street or something, just the name, but hopefully he plays like someone from Sesame Street. Missed those 2 penalties against Burnley recently, didn't he, where he smacked them both straight at James Trafford. Missed a sitter in injury time on Saturday. They should actually have won the game once they got back to 2-2. If he wants to keep on
building him up, then is he?
No, if he wants to keep on doing that, feel free. But he's got pace, and that's the one thing that worries me against the centre of our defence.
Yeah, and that is one thing that hasn't been addressed, really.
I mean, we defend deeper, don't we, than we did under Rob? I mean, crikey. It was impossible to defend any further up the pitch, wouldn't it? We'd have been in the attacking goalmouth if we defended any further up the pitch. That will help with the lack of pace. He won't have as much space in behind, but obviously with that will bring the rest of their team slightly further forward.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of technically very gifted players, and athletically as well, if you're looking at Bellingham.
Who didn't play at the weekend.
Yeah, but the dreaded he could be available was bandied around, wasn't it? So, he looks exactly like his brother, but, hopefully not as good, but still pretty good. So they can do all the things, can't they, really? And that's the sign of a very good team, which they are. And, it's almost one of those where you've got to be as best as you can be and hope they have a bit of an off day, cup tie sort of thing, isn't it, really? I mean, it can be done. We've watched Plymouth beat Liverpool in the FA Cup today, and well done, Plymouth. Go on a cup run. Yes. All in favour of that.
And have next Wednesday off.
Yeah, do that as well. And Cardiff are still in the cup as well. So you boys go on a long cup run. Have a great time. Have a whale of a time. Take your eye off some balls. The ball. We'll see where that goes. But, it just shows it can be done, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, of course it can be done. Yeah, absolutely. We go there. Listen, we go there with an outside chance. No team's gone there and won this season, and there have been many better sides than us, even when we're at our best. The likes of Sheffield United have been there. They've not won yet. They're they're flying high. So we've no divine right to think we're going to go there and win.
Do we go there less of an outside chance, but with the attacking players that we've added, with maybe a puncher's chance?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Because, I mean, if you think of our success against Sunderland 2 years ago, largely it was down to set pieces, wasn't it? Well, that hasn't changed. We've now got our set piece taker back as well, so that's good. I mean, you look at the goal that was there in the league game, Alfie's free kick into the bottom corner. Well, we saw against Sheffield Wednesday that we've still got Alfie's left peg, and obviously you look at the the 2 goals in the game at our place. 2 set pieces, one a recycled one that ended up going back in, which Tom obviously got on the end of. Nothing's changed in that regard. Okay, they've got Mepham at the back, so they're a little bit more physical at the back. They can handle it, but we still have an awful lot of threats. And actually, when they came down here, we still had an awful lot of joy on set pieces. So we would always go there with that. I think we go there this time with a puncher's chance, you're right, but also with a sort of ability to control the game. Had we gone there under Rob, we could have got swamped very, very quickly the way we defended, because they come at you from all angles. I mean, hell, even the left back Sirkin, he was the one who got the equaliser on Saturday. He was right in the heart of the penalty box when he scored that. And it's, obviously centre back scored the first one. They literally do come at you from all angles. I think we're a little bit more organised. I think we'll be able to cope with that. And I think the big pitch will really help us with the pace that we've got. We're probably going to, if we get anything from this game, it's going to be some sort of high-scoring shootout. We're not going to restrict them to a 0-0 draw, I wouldn't think. But we have got the artillery to go and get something in a game like that.
Well, you say that, but then we've not conceded a goal in the first game back from the 3 breaks that we've had. So, there is precedent. I agree with you, by the way. I'm just saying it. I don't think that is going to be the case. But
with all due respect to Millwall, that lot and Hull, think this lot are an upgrade on them slightly.
I think so. But then we've got the ability to, well, on paper at least, we haven't seen it yet because we've only seen flashes of it in one game. Cameos of 2 of them, and Asgard, who was pretty tidy, but and we haven't seen nor that either. So on paper, there's more of an attacking tilt to this team. They just have to show it, and hopefully they've been working on that for 10 days.
Yeah, that's it. And the interesting thing for me will be who will be our left back. Listen, we're going to struggle at right back. He's going to have, I don't know, I have absolutely no idea how Sunderland have got him in on loan from, I think it's Rome. Rome signed him in the summer for something like 25 million euros or something, and now all of a sudden he's on loan to Sunderland. He's going to have whoever's at right back on toast. He's going to have most of the Championship right backs on toast. He's that good. On the other side, if we can force them out that side, unfortunately, they're equally as tasty with Patrick Roberts on that side. Now, we had Joe Johnson at Sheffield Wednesday. You'd like to think in the 10 days, we didn't hear exactly what was wrong with Amari Bell, but in the lead up to that game, we didn't hear what was wrong with Amari Bell. So it must have been a relatively close thing. So if we can have Amari back just to do some defending down that side, or do we play Alfie down that side and then put someone like Millie Ali in from the start down that left-hand side? Either way, if we can switch the ball away from that left-hand side of theirs down to the right-hand side, yes, Roberts is good, but we've come up against him before and he hasn't caused us too much damage in those games, as good as he is. That would be handy.
Yeah, it'd be very handy. So what would you say we double up down that side then?
Down the right-hand side?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah, because... Yeah, I think we will. Well, we will win this formation anyway, won't we? I think the wingers will play... he likes to call it a 4-3-3, doesn't he? But I think when we're playing most of this game, it will very much look like, if you're looking at it from down up above, it will look like a 4-5-1 most of the time, won't it? Or at least I would expect it to. So yeah, we can double up on them, and that'll help. Particularly, presumably, Isaiah Jones will be okay. It was a family thing that made him miss the Sheffield Wednesday game, so you can't hope that wasn't too serious and that everything's okay, in which case, in 10 days, hopefully he's back. He's played right wing back. Obviously, he'll have a point to prove. He'll get a fair bit of grief being Middlesbrough and Sunderland. I know it's not Newcastle and Sunderland, but it's still fairly similar, isn't it? So he'll have something to prove down that side, so maybe he'll get stuck in as well. So maybe we can do it that way round, but it was down the flanks at Sheffield Wednesday where we struggled, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely that. But that's kind of, if you're going to have a weakness, that's where you maybe would want it to be, because the lads in the middle are going to hopefully head it away with, well, we don't know if Cal will play there, because obviously the centre-back pairing kind of worked last time, and he came in to shore it up and obviously got that over the line. So there's options there, isn't there? But I think we've talked before, if you're going to allow anything, it's let them go down the sides and cross it in, and then hopefully the defence can cope with that. And I'd be more comfortable with that. And I think that's what we've seen with the midfield formations that he's played, and particularly Lamine against Sheffield Wednesday. There was no space in that area, which would kind of cut out your Bellinghams and that to a certain degree. But then, yeah, 20 million worth of Rome talent on the flank is probably a different proposition.
Yep, it is. Rigg looked like he got an injury on Saturday, so that'll be handy if he misses out. If they get one back and miss one of their wonder kids, then that will help. Yeah, lots of Sunderland threats to worry about, but there are Luton threats as well, so let's go on to that. Yeah, the back four will be interesting. I mean, I wouldn't expect it to be the same back four, because I'd like to think that as much as Joe Johnson is the future and everything, if we've got someone more senior at left back, we probably need to play him there for this game, such as the threat that they pose. I think the two centre-backs will be the same. They did absolutely nothing wrong. It's a dangerous assumption to make, but assuming that they haven't got injured over the last 10 days, then they did nothing wrong at Sheffield Wednesday. In fact, it was the best central defensive performance that we've put in all season, in terms of what you want from central defenders: throwing themselves in front of the ball, heading everything away, keeping hold of their striker, all of that. So if we can do that, that'll be handy. And you're right, if we can get them to cross the ball in, I would expect Anderson and McGuinness to beat Isidore in the air more often than not. Obviously, it's when they get down the sides and then pull the ball back to the edge of the box. They're the kind of ones that we struggled with. Of course, down the road at Middlesbrough in particular, we struggled left, right and centre with that. So I'm kind of okay with those two, but I would expect the fullbacks to change. Walter's had a right old tough time at Sheffield Wednesday, and if he's having a tough time, no disrespect to that Gassama chap, but if he's having a tough time up against him, he's going to get tied in knots by Lafay. You kind of, or at least I kind of see Walters as more of an attacking modern day fullback, whereas I see Hashi as more of a defensive fullback. In this game, you have to take the defensive one, surely.
That would make sense to me, yeah. The Gassama, the incident led to the goal. It was a very strong fella, and the absolute unit that, given some years of experience, I think Walters would trip or something before he even got to the penalty area, which is what Bloomfield was pretty much calling for after it was on it. So, he's going to have games like that for a while, isn't he, until he sort of really finds his feet, because he hasn't been able to this season, and this is his first season in men's football. So the injury was a big layoff, and that's put his development back, obviously. So I know Hashi gets some pelters from a lot of people, but by and large, and this is not without fault, because they've all had their off days. By and large, he's been okay. Nothing sparkling, but if you're just setting him out to be right, you be there and defend, then he's fairly tenacious, and you that would seem like the better option for now.
Yeah, I would agree. That battle's just a big battle, and I mean, if I think back to earlier on when Hashi played, was it against Preston? They were targeting him in the air with that aerial ball all the time, and Hashi won more duels than he did, and now he's not going to get no aerial threat. Here, everything's going to go into Lafay's feet. You don't have a player of that quality and then bang it up to his head. Well, you shouldn't have a player of that quality and then bang it up to his head. So he'll have to work it out from there, but I think he's the more solid of the two options. The left-back one, though, is the one. Even when Amari Bell's played, he hasn't really looked great. Joe Johnson, very young, up against someone like Patrick Roberts. Is this the game where we just have to say, we might want Alfie to be that wide left player, particularly in light of the fact that he's just scored at Sheffield Wednesday, but actually, Alf, we really need two down that side, so you behind whoever. We'll come on to who the other one may be, but you can get up and down the pitch, you can defend. You've had an extra 10 days of training since what did he play, just over an hour at Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah.
So he should be close to full fitness, and even if he's not, if he just plays 75 minutes and then we have to use 15 of Amari or Joe or whoever it may be, then that's the better option. I think I would have no problem with him going with Amari if Amari's fit. We'll only know if he's match fit when he plays the match, won't we? You have to guess otherwise. But I think Alfie might be the safer option down that side. At least you know he's fit and been playing matches.
Yeah, and I think there's obviously been some concern by many observers that Amari's not been quite the same of late, and that could be an injury thing. And we'll find out perhaps in the pre-match about where he's at in terms of that. But I think you're right in terms of Doughty being back there, as like he can do that job. And if we're going up to Sunderland, although you predicted it's going to have to be a shootout, you would ordinarily say you're probably going to have to soak some pressure up and hit on the counter. You can do that. But then set pieces are going to have to be important as well. And obviously that's his forte, so he can do that. So it's not necessarily that he's going to have to be up and down all the time. So maybe, stick him in at left and he can defend. And then it's about who you put in front of him, doesn't it? Because we've got options now, whereas perhaps before we didn't.
Well, that's it. And also, how can you keep Patrick Roberts away from our goal? Well, you can stick our left back as an attacking option that has to force him back, like we've seen so many times this season where we've had to bring two back down the sides because teams have done it to us when we were in that stupid formation that we used to utilise. Sunderland don't utilise it. 4-2-3-1, absolutely guaranteed for Sunderland on Wednesday night. Central midfield's interesting. Now, if we go back to the deep dive, when we spoke to Steve, the Scandinavian expert, he has Lamine in front of Marvellous Nakamba, and if we're going to play that, here's the time to play it.
Yeah, I want to see that totally. Even before Steve said it, but that sort of rubber stamped it in my mind that would be a good option. We've seen Lamine play all across the midfield already, and he's only played 3 games. I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him playing 10. We don't need that anymore because we've got the people to do that. But as an 8 or a 6, then he can. But if Marv's going to play there, let him do the 8 role and be up and down. And it was really heartening, actually, wasn't it, to hear Steve's comments about him that if he stays injury free, we're really going to like what we see. But I've seen signs of the good stuff that he was signed for already. And even when he played as a 10, he probably can't hit a bundle and a banjo from shooting, but everything else seemed to be, approaching top draw as far as it can be in a side that's not been playing very well. But I'd like to see that. You always feel more comfortable with Marv there anyway. And the job that Lamine did against Sheffield Wednesday, filled in because Marv didn't play. If they're both there, it feels a lot more secure.
Yeah, it really does. And the way they're going to try and get Isidore in is playing it through in between the 2 centre-halves. That's how his chance came about late on Saturday. It's how his goal came about at Middlesbrough, where he just got played through by Lefay. Half of the pitch to run into, sat the goalkeeper down and literally walked the ball into the back of the net. We've seen that goal a few times and we don't want to be seeing that on Wednesday night, that's for sure. Yeah, Marvellous. I mean, it might be that Marv and Lamine play alongside each other and we have 2 behind 1, literally in a 4-2-3-1 when we're going forward sort of formation. And then in which case the one in front of them would be interesting. I mean, he hasn't brought Asgard in for 3 million quid for him to sit on the bench, but you do have Jordan Clark in that area as well. Only one can play if Lamine and Marv play. But for me, it would have to be Asgard here for 2 reasons. Firstly, we've already spoken about set pieces being a big thing. So Asgard's a foot taller than Jordan Clark, much more physical, much more able to handle himself. So against a team that's still relatively small, even allowing for the fact that they've got Mepham in from the team that we played 2 years ago, Asgard's aerial threat would be much more important. We're going to have to hold the ball up at some point in this game. We're going to have to protect it. We're going to have to keep it. The longer we can have the ball and they've not got it, common logic will tell you they can't score if they haven't got the ball. Well, unless we do something stupid, but, we're starting to not do that more often. So for me, the third midfielder would be Asgard. That's nothing against Jordan Clark, and there will be times where Jordan Clark is important, maybe the next 2 home games in particular. You wouldn't necessarily need to have Marvin Lamine in both of those games, but here I think we do.
He's been run ragged this entire season. He's had to play. He's played and played. He played himself into form, actually, because he wasn't that great and people were, giving him pelters, and then he's been one of the better players in the last month or so. But, he's 30, might even be 31 now. And, he's played that amount of minutes, whereas Asgard's come in fresh, wants something to prove. I think so. He's going to be more. Well, Jordan Clark is a technical player, and that's good. So he would be able to put his foot on the ball. But you could also say that about Liam Walsh, couldn't you? If he was to be utilised. But I think for the dynamic purposes of if you are going to have to spring him on the counter, then Asgard's probably going to be a better man.
Yeah. Springing him on the counter, set pieces, just naturally going to be more physical, more harder to shrug off the ball as well, isn't he? Might even get the odd cheap free kick, which...
It was very neat, actually. Very neat and tidy against Sheffield Wednesday.
I mean, he boiled
Very
some piss
strong.
on social media when the club put that turnout of his on the halfway line where he left the defender in no man's land. I mean, the Sheffield Wednesday fans did
they did
not like that one little bit.
I
There
mean-
was, if he wants to do a bit more of that, this lot will take the bait as well, won't they? It's...
Sucker AM Tecker, that, isn't it?
It really, really was, yeah. And much more of that would be nice. He's just a handful, isn't he? He's a technical player, but at the same time, you've just got to look at him to know he knows how to put himself about. He's come through some sort of academy in Liverpool as well. And you get taught how to handle yourself in that academy, don't you? Otherwise, you can't. You're never going to come through that side. Played at League One, you have to handle yourself in League One, otherwise you're in trouble. So I just think that would be my midfield 3, and I think you're leaning the same way of wherever Lamine plays, whether he plays up a little bit further up or whether he plays a little further deeper. Marvellous Lamine and Asgard. I guess Lamine will float between the 2 roles, won't he?
Yeah, I think so. But if you're going to put Marv and Lamine in the same team, as much as that's going to give you a bit of solidity at the back, they're not going to get any goals, are they? Because Lamine didn't score this season for AIK and Marv's never scored for Luton. But Tello gives that. He gives that option, and he can hang back at the edge of a box if something drops, and he can score much more than Clark would, even though he's got a couple of goals, Clark, but he's missed a couple as well, whereas Tello is more dead-eyed, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Wingers. We know we're going to play 2 wingers with 1 centre forward. We've already said that we're going to probably lean towards Alfie at left back. So that leaves us requiring a left winger and a right winger. Lots of options here suddenly. Start of the season, one of the reasons why we didn't play this 4-2-3-1 was because the wide options weren't necessarily automatic. Once Chio left to play the right-hand role, kind of really didn't have anyone for that. And then you looked at the left-hand role and you're like, well, we haven't really got anyone for that either. Now, all of a sudden, can't move for options. Down the left alone, you could play Ali, who came on at Sheffield Wednesday. You can play Josh Bowler on the left. He was all left-footed down that side. If you don't play Bowler on the left, we saw at Sheffield Wednesday he can play on the right. You got Izzy Jones, who can play on the right. Suddenly, you got Jacob Brown floating around in the mix as well. Who knows what's happened to Teeth Chong? We're not expecting him back for this game, but in time, he's going to be a factor in those 2 roles as well. All of a sudden, having gone from seemingly no one to play these positions, we're swimming in them.
Yeah, and I think that's why I was so buoyed by the transfer business, because it gave those options with still more to come with the likes of Chong, and it will fit Matt Bloomfield's style that he did with Wickham, where he would rotate the front 3, and we've seen that already with this team. And the more competition and more players that know they're going to get a game at some point and being able to affect it, I think that's a nice little way to just sort of crowbar some confidence into this team. I do, and I think that we'll see that the fruit of that come to fruition, hopefully this game, but certainly in the next few, 2 or 3. And I think that that's a really promising thing. The one thing is that it's the unknown at the moment, isn't it? We don't know. On paper, it looks like that's a good set of options. Now they've all got to perform, and that's the tricky thing.
Well, we don't know, which means Sunderland can't know. So that's, if they're scouting us, And let's be honest, they've only had 3 days for this game, so they'll probably have warmed down Sunday and had a light day like teams usually do after a game. So they've only really got Monday, Tuesday, and I guess because they're at home, maybe Wednesday morning to do another light session. They've not really got acres of time to prepare for this game, which should be a help. So who are your two? We're likely to see everyone I've just mentioned, with the exception of Tahith Chong, at some point in the game. But if I was giving you the task of picking the two starting wingers, which two would you start with?
Presuming that Jones's family matter and he's okay and he's like everything's cool with him, then Jones, I think Bloomfield was very excited to know that they'd signed him, in the period between.
Like a good job, really.
Exactly. In the period between Edwards and Bloomfield, he was very excited by that. And probably, well, like everyone, he hasn't really been able to get the full effect of Jones, and he's still trying to get up match sharpness, and obviously in a new team because he didn't play a lot for Middlesbrough. So, but when he did look positive and had the ball at his feet, he did have a very direct mindset. Just, I'm going to run at this lot, and that was very good. So I like to see that. So him, I'd go on the right, and just for experience sake, I think I'd go Bowler on the left just for now, and then you've got Millie Ali as an impact off the bench because only did it once, but that. There wasn't a lot going for Luton attacking-wise at the time that he did that at Hillsborough, but that was really positive, the way it went at them, and obviously he looks to cut inside. Bowler hasn't played a lot of football either, so that would seem like the best swap after 60, 70 minutes. They're both going to want to cut inside, and then you've got crossing and goal shooting opportunities then, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the way I'd do it as well, because what I liked about Bowler at Sheffield Wednesday is when we were under the pump in that last half an hour, and we really were, he dug in with his defensive work, and actually they looked less likely to create anything from the left when Bowler was on the pitch. Okay, a lot of their attacks started coming down the right and through the middle, but, can't plug, this is like your analogy with the dike and everything, you can't plug everything up at the same time. So yeah, if Bowler can do some defensive work down that side and keep Roberts a little bit quieter, then that would certainly help. And obviously Jones doing the same down the LaFay's wing. Centre forward is going to be Carlton, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so for now, until we see how ready Lassie's going to be coming back. Then I don't think we'll see him from the start, and I'd be surprised if we see him at all. But depends what options they've got. He could be on the bench and bring him on, maybe give him 5 minutes at the end if you're really chasing something, and see what can happen, because he is 6'4".
Or seeing something out, on the same token. Yeah,
absolutely. You never know. Match fitness is going to be an issue, isn't it? But we won't know until we try. And it's almost at the point where you can't not, I suppose. But it's not that desperate at the moment, but do need points.
Yeah, the good thing with regards to Nordas, where he's concerned, we've got 4 games in 11 days, having just had 11 days off. So at some point, all hands on deck is going to be used. So he'll get minutes in one of those games, because we're not going to play the same people in all 4 games. So Morris centre forward. So basically, we've got a pretty similar team, James and I, actually. Obviously, we never reference the goalkeeper, and people always pick us up on it. It will be Kaminsky in goal, and then that's absolutely fine, because we are probably going to need his shot stopping like we've not needed it for a while on Wednesday night, if recent Sunderland games are anything to go by. Alfie Doughty left back, Mads Anderson, Mark McGuinness centre backs, Hashioka at right back for us too. Whichever combination of the way the midfield works. We've got Lamine, Marvellous and Asgard. Bowler on the left wing, Jones on the right wing, Carlton Morris up front. Let's just have a good go.
That was really going to give us a hope going up there, because their home record is absolutely formidable. Just generally against everybody, it's formidable against Luton. Even on some of our best days, the ones that you've remembered recently in the last 5 years or so, 6 years, have been draws. That's the size of it. So, but these records are there to be broken. We've ended the away day hoodoo. Let's not start it up. I'd happily take a draw if that was offered it to me, because we saw the other day that Derby got a last gasp penalty, didn't they, in injury time to get a point, and you've got to keep up with the Joneses there.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't beat them, join them. They've sacked their manager now, haven't they? It's just Portsmouth now that are the anomaly down in the bottom 7, yet to sack their manager. I watched their game on Saturday. They play Sheffield United off the park, Portsmouth. I'm mighty glad that they came out on the wrong side of that result.
Yeah, I mean, they have been doing that recently and picking up some results, haven't they? And obviously still got to play them. I'd take ugly football for the remainder of the season just to claw and scratch our way away from where we are at the moment.
I was going to say to you, what's pretty football look like? Because we haven't seen that for a while without the results, have we?
Sometimes I get lost in other podcasts. I've been listening to one about Dutch football and it's total football.
They've obviously not got round to the 12 men on the pitch.
They get around to that bit, but yeah, sometimes I think that is what we've been seeing, and it absolutely isn't.
Because this is a big game, really, isn't it? I mean, like you say, is it a game that's going to define our season? No, because not many teams have gone to Sunderland and won. And of course, if you can go there, you've basically got 3 points on the field based on what we've seen already this season. Tuesday night, Portsmouth play Cardiff. They're 2 of the 3 teams immediately above the relegation zone. You've got Hull at Burnley. I think that's Wednesday night. You'd like to think that Burnley can actually score a goal, in which case they'll win the game because seemingly they've built a brick wall in front of their goal because no one can score in that goal. That's absolutely incredible where they've come from.
It's an unbelievable turnaround from last season. I mean, how leaky they were. It was incredible. So if he's done anything there, it's to... Wow, we loved 1-0 away, didn't we? 1-0 home and away. We loved it. I think they're not so keen, but come on. It's doing a decent job.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a few 0-0 draws and 1-0s right now, that's for sure. If we could have... I think they've kept 10 clean sheets on the trot, which is absolutely mad. Because, yeah, they definitely have, actually, because I'm an NFL fan, and they've got a former NFL player as a part owner. And there's this thing between the goalkeeper, Trafford, who, to be honest, if you watched him last season, you wouldn't have backed him to have kept 1 clean sheet, let alone 10. Mm-hmm. There's a thing with him. He supports Cincinnati Bengals, and JJ Watt's the guy who owns or co-owns Burnley, who's just recently retired from the NFL. And Trafford wound him up to say, can you come back and play for the Bengals because they stunk the place out this year? And he played for one of their rival teams, so he was like, no chance, not unless you don't let another goal in for the rest of the season. And this was about 7 or 8 games ago, and he hasn't let a goal in since then. So JJ Watt's panicking that he's not going to let another goal in. Spoiler alert, he will do. But it's a thing, and it's been going on for a month or so. So they haven't let a goal in for a long time. Southampton didn't score against them at the weekend when it wasn't Trafford in goal, and they rested God knows how many players. Don't let Wednesday night be the time that you concede a goal, lads. See Hull out and help us out a little bit.
You can tell someone's excited about the Super Bowl, aren't they? We're a couple of hours away from that.
Right, I'm excited about the Super Bowl. It'll be over by the time people watch this. But
I didn't understand a single word you said for the last minute, but then you said James Trafford, and then I understood again. But yeah, all that other stuff, I don't know. Yeah.
They're keeping clean sheets. That's the thing. But yeah, so if we can get something from here and the other results do go our way, then that'll be helpful. Of course, the home games are the ones that we really, really, really need to win. And we'll come on to the Sheffield United game after this one. Will be a tough night. Therefore, if you've got a ticket in the gods at the away end, be loud and be proud and make sure the players know that we're there. Probably won't be too many of us on a Wednesday night, understandably, particularly with the game on television. But if you can get there and give the boys some support, really, really, really could do with it in this game. Obviously, stadium lights, really good atmosphere, probably going to be even better on floodlights. They're buzzing for promotion, etc., etc. So the more noise we can make, the better. And see where we go. That's pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. But we have got score predictions to do. Sunderland v Luton, how does it finish, Jimbo?
I would love to be optimistic on this one and go for a draw.
Whenever you say that word, we all know that you're not going to be optimistic and you're not going for a draw.
Because in this day and age, you have to caveat this. I'm not saying I want them to lose, but given the statistical basis for what we've just described over the last 45 minutes, I think it's going to be very tough. I think we might score, and that would be good. I think they're probably going to win 2-1 though.
It's like when someone says, to be fair, and then they go on a 5-minute rant of being anything but fair.
This is just the modern world that we're living in now. We're on here in people's on people's phones and people's laptops, and for some reason you have to explain why you're just being a realist. Sorry.
Yeah, I suspect you are being a realist, but I still can't bring myself to do it. So I'm in danger of losing more ground here. I do agree with you. I think they'll score a couple of goals. They're that good. They seem to score 2 goals in every game, or every game I watch them play in anyway. Can we score a couple of goals? Let's say we can for the shits and giggles, and we'll have a Desmond. Get ourselves a little something, set piece, and I don't know, something else.
Well, you're even picking out how it's going to happen, are you?
But if we don't score a set piece, we ain't scoring 2 goals, are we? Let's be honest. This is set piece FC at the minute.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, I'd be more delighted if it happens for you, if you get that scoreline, because, yeah, going up there and getting a point would actually feel like progress. But the dream scenario would be go up there and hand them some revenge from what they did at our place. So, like, them play amazing and us win. That would be great.
Listen, I've watched enough championship football down the years to know that when a team's unbeaten at home in February and a team can't win away for love nor money, that team wins the away game. You see it every single week in the championship, don't you? I mean, there's always a result that you look at and you're like, how the hell has that happened? It's going to be, it could be this one on Wednesday.
You got some of that good old US of A positivity going through you. You're just getting like limbering up for the Super Bowl now, aren't you? With some yippee-ki-yay stuff.
It's more the fact that I've got a 486-mile round trip to do in 3 days' time, and I need some sort of positivity to get me there. And that's just from the bottom of the stadium of light to where the away end is as well.
There's some cracking fish and chips in Sunderland. If you walk down the weir just before it goes out into the sea, I forget what it's called, but cracking fish and chips that do. If you ask for scraps, they'll give you loads of it. You don't get too much of that down south, do you? Well, certainly not on my chippy. So there's something, you go there. And my mate's got a stall in Jackie White's Market. So if you like retro toys, it's called the Retro Room. There you go, giving it a plug. Get yourself down there. Other than that, you're on your own.
So I've got a chippy that he doesn't know where it is or what it's called. But apart from that, we're all good.
I can find it out in the meantime. Do you really want me to put it in the notes? I'll just tell you. If you want to know, ask me.
So 2-1 defeat for Jimbo. 2-2 for me. Let's be fair, Jimbo's probably more on the lines of realism in this one. But you never know. You just never know. I mean, who thought down the road, roughly this time last year, we'd go to Newcastle, I apologise for swearing, Sunderland fans, and draw 4-4. No one saw that coming. So maybe it's that part of the world. I hope it's more 4-4 than 5-1 at Middlesbrough. That is all I will say. We do not need anything close to that nonsense again.
Yeah, well, it's been very high scoring in that part of the world, hasn't it? So
maybe your 2-1's got no chance.
Exactly. It could be an absolute barnstorm of a game.
I do think there'll be goals.
Oh, there'll be goals. I mean, as much as you'd want Luton to be improved as they were at Hillsborough, and from quite a few of Bloomfield's games, in fact, I think it's a big ask to go and shut out Sunderland.
It is, yeah, but being more serious, though, I would like to see, there's no would like to see, I will see because I'll be there, but I will be interested to see where we are from those first 4 games to where we are here. As I said earlier in the podcast, we might not be able to judge it here because they are good and they are a team that attacks more than a lot of teams. Maybe the time away from home to judge it will be probably not even Watford, to be fair, because derbies are derbies, but the Burnley-Cardiff games, and maybe it's the home game against Sheffield United and Plymouth that we'll see where we're at. But I will be interested.
It's going to be a yardstick, isn't it? Whatever you think so. Because of the amount of time that he's had to now work with them. Before it was just, rapid fire games when he just come in trying to get used to a new league, new players, new club, everything. And
but we've spotted differences in all of those games, haven't we? And that's the thing. Can we spot a difference from what we've seen in those 4 games to here that we're going to go forward with, whether we win, lose or draw? If we can spot a difference that we can take into the last 15 games with us, Because it's only really Burnley away in terms of the away games now after this one that you're looking at and you're like, well, we might have to write that one off as well. But the rest of the away games, your Cardiffs, your Hulls, your Derbys, and all of the other teams, you kind of fancy that if we can take something forward with us from these away games, we will end up winning that lack of winning hoodoo at some point. So I'll be interested to see if we have got something like that. Now, whether that's a compactness defensively that we showed at Sheffield Wednesday without the clean sheet, albeit it was a penalty that got the better of us, or whether it's a little bit more of an attacking threat, whether that's attacking threat with the ball and possession. I suspect not in this game because they're going to have a lot of the ball. They're a young side, they're energetic, etc., etc. So maybe this is the game where we can judge Luton's counter-attack on. We haven't had a counter-attack for ever and a day, have we? So maybe this is the time that we can judge that. And if we can see signs of that, whatever the result, at least when those easier away games come along, then we can impose that on other teams and give ourselves a reason to be confident that at some point that elusive away win's going to come.
The rot stop, that's okay. We're not under threat of this worst ever run total. But you need a formula, some sort of formula that we can see on that pitch that goes, right, when we go to these other grounds, there's going to be something in it for us if we play like that. And we're consistent. If there's, we weren't seeing that. We just weren't. We didn't know where it was going to come from. We couldn't see it. Even when you scored first, you lost. And whenever you came back, you lost. You went ahead again, still lost. Hopefully that's the end of it now. But something in the realms of a formula where you can go, right, if we apply that elsewhere, might be okay here.
Particularly in light of what the next away game is. We'd all love to take something there and give them a good hiding.
Yeah, and their home record was pretty good. I'm not sure if it is now, but we didn't like it the last time we went there, so we don't want that again.
Oh, no, we don't. That's pretty much it then for this episode of the podcast. Let us know your team. Do you have any changes to the ones that we've named? Bearing in mind that we're doing this before the press conference, by the time that you watch this, you may well already know who's in and who's out and everything else. But let us know, are you Alfie left back? Are you Hashi right back? If you're not, who are you having there? Are you Bowler left wing? Are you Izzy Jones right wing? Where are you having Lamine? Does Clark get in your team? Let us know in the comments, and it'll be interesting to see what everyone thinks. Let's have your score predictions as well. They're back. Obviously 3 points if you get the correct result. Correct score. 1 point if you get the result right. And the leaderboard will appear in the review episode. Just to mark your card for that review episode, it will come out in the early hours of Friday morning. What we're going to do, though, the turnaround time between a Wednesday night game and a Saturday afternoon game, it's just so slow, so low. For us to get a review out and a preview out, it's kind of not really happening. It's hard enough for us to turn it around, let alone for you guys to listen.
Separate episodes, you mean?
Yeah, separate episodes. So what we'll do, just for this one, given it's Wednesday night and it's a bloody long way, I'm not going to get back until the early hours of Thursday morning anyway, we will combine the Sunderland review with a Sheffield United preview, and that will be out, as I say, in the early hours of Friday morning, so that you've got enough time to take in what we think of the Sunderland game and look ahead to the Sheffield United game and have time to get your score predictions in for that one. We'll be back to normal after that. The Plymouth and Watford game, because the Watford game is on the Sunday, it gives us slightly more wiggle room, and of course we're not going to let the derby go by without a full preview.
Yes, what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for your thoughts, Jimbo.
Well, I mean, mainly I would like to sleep in between these two games, so having to edit them is quite the mission.
It is, yeah, and I've been playing the violin so much the strings are about to snap, so I'm only joking. Does a fantastic job, does Jimbo. But yeah, podcasts are coming thick and fast over the next few weeks. I think we've got something like 3 midweek games in the next 4 midweeks. So if you haven't already subscribed and you want to know exactly when all of our content drops, we'll try and get out to you at regular times as much as we can. But these games, they're here, they're everywhere. So hit that subscribe button and you'll know exactly when each of our podcasts drop.
Yeah, and we're nearly on a nice round number. So I like those. Something in my brain says, yes, thank you very much. Gives me a great sense of satisfaction.
Yep, will help us out immensely if you can subscribe, and it will help you out too. Thanks for all your comments. Do keep them coming as always. Thanks to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio, to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. Till next time, where I will be a very, very sleepy, dreary person reviewing a late night home from Sunderland with hopefully some points in the bag. From Jimbo and myself, come on you Hatters, let's do this.
I believe our supporters are the best supporters in the country.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.